Well, another week. You know what? Here's the funny thing about this week, and we'll go into kind of a theme on, and I'm going to talk about 180s. Okay, this week you're going to see a massive 180. However, we're looking at school coming down the pipeline for the kiddos. Well, football season is in full swing. Whether you're an NFL fan, whether you have youth kids in sports like I do, and it means fall is approaching, right? So it's just the nature of the beast. We're now on the latter half of August. Spent the day at the Minnesota State Fair last week working the Clam Outdoors booth. That's happening as we speak right now as well. It just means summer's coming to, unfortunately, an end. However, still seeing some summer patterns, still fishing the ways I think we should fish. But the reason I'm going to throw in that 180 is because we're seeing these extreme switches in weather and conditions, which causes me to do a 180, to change maybe how fast I fish, maybe a location I fish, the presentation I fish at times, and we'll run through some of that. And I'm really going to focus on slowing down. That's going to be the focus in this week's fishing report, and that's how we got our fish to bite this week. And I'll explain why, and then I'll talk about the 180 phenomenon and why we're seeing that now the last couple days with, as you guessed, lots of rain, cooling off temperatures, and the forecast this week looks nice, but a lot of wind. And again, with the 180 theme, this past week, arguably the least amount of wind I've seen in an entire week, this entire open water season. I mean, we had multiple days in a row with absolutely zero wind, dead, slack, calm water, stagnant weather, high suns, tough conditions, what we consider the dog days. And now we're looking at cloudy. We had rain for a few days. We're going to experience a whole bunch of wind this week. Cooler mornings in the 50s. It's that time of year. It's that 180 swing. So to get things started, so we started off the week on Monday fishing a body of water that was where it should be for water temps. You had the mid to low 70s, which is pretty typical of what we've seen here in the last couple weeks. And we decided to fish some isolated offshore rock type stuff, which is where the fish should be. And I don't necessarily think that they weren't there. I think we started off too aggressive. We were sweating at 9 a.m. because it was 80 degrees out, not a lick of wind, direct sun over the top, and very humid. We were just dripping sweat, let alone in the afternoon, starting at early in the morning. And what we realized as we progressed through our patterns of throwing a rock jig, maybe even throwing a crank, fishing a shaky head, fishing a traditional jig, whatever it might be, stuff that you think you should throw at some of this rocky type situation, we just couldn't get bit. And it wasn't until we fished some deeper ledge rock stuff with a Ned, not just any Ned, the slowest moving Ned you could possibly imagine, did we start to get bit. And we went to light braid, light fluorocarbon leaders, and just dragging that bait across the bottom. This is what I was doing. And then just a little bit of line, pick up with the reel, move the rod back up, and just drag. And of the 15 or so fish we caught, I think I felt one actually bite, like one, he ate it. It was a little bit of weight, feel some tension, set the hook. That was about it. We were seeing a very negative bite, I would say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. That's kind of how things laid out. Things changed a bit here. We saw some conditions roll through. Let's see, when did it start raining? Was that Thursday night? Can't remember. Maybe, I think we had a little bit of rain like Wednesday night, and then maybe Friday it started to rain. Everything's a washout to me. I just know we had a bunch of rain on Saturday, a bunch of rain today. This morning it rained really hard. Watching the guys on Bassmaster throughout the day, they fished in the rain I think most of the day. And this is really what we use to get these fish to go, is, like I said, a slow Ned rig. I'm just fishing a 1/10. This is a 1/10 ounce from Z-Man, just their little Ned head. And this is a Mr. Twister, my all-time go-to Ned right now. That Ned ringer catches a bunch of fish, and I've been just painfully dragging this across the bottom, waiting for any change in weight, something different out of the ordinary. And sometimes it was rock. I broke off on a bunch of jigs. Sometimes it was rock, but oftentimes if it's a fish, it'll feel some resistance, and then you actually feel just a little bit of, oh, there's something playing with it. And 9 times out of 10 at that point, they have the bait, set the hook, bring them home. Using a custom built Thorne Brothers rod, just a 7 to 7.5 foot medium action rod. Medium light works exceptionally well too. I go a little heavier myself, and I have a 2500 or 3000 series Vanford reel. I've been playing with that 15 pound to 20 pound Suffix 832, and I grabbed a spool of it here because that's been a common question in the last couple weeks, is that high vis line. This is what I've been using, Suffix 832 braided line, spectral line in that high vis. And then I got about a 6 or 7 or 8 foot fluorocarbon leader on there, anything from 8 to 10 pound test fluorocarbon leader. If I'm running 15 pound braid, I do an 8 pound leader. If I'm running 20 pound braid, I tend to go to a 10 or a 10 pound leader. So that's what you're seeing here when I'm posting pictures and videos of these reels that have that high vis line on it, is that Suffix 832. Started using it last year, love it. I'm slowly but surely trading out all of my reels to this. I just like the visibility, and again, I'm using that fluorocarbon leader to on the receiving end of everything, and that's working good. So the net head, slow down. That's how we caught him this week. Now things changed a bit here this weekend, and I anticipate that again this coming week. We'll see. We'll report back in a week, I guess, is all I can say. Is we're going to see a change in conditions. I'm going to hit the water hard the next few days and through the weekend, and we'll have another solid report as we jump into Labor Day weekend, which is September. Open water season, slow down, just a hair. Another way we're catching a bunch of our fish is slow fishing a jig, and I'm fishing the Rattling AT jig from All Terrain. I'm using a 3/8 ounce. That seems to be the best of both worlds. Yes, there's a quarter. Yes, there's stuff bigger than 3/8 like halves and things like that, and 3/4, but I'm fishing a 3/8 ounce. That seems to be the best of both worlds for me. On this presentation does rattle. I'm just holding a sprayed grass here. It's one of the newer colors. That's your watermelon, green pumpkin, a little bit of purple in it. It's got that cool watermelon head, green pumpkin head. And one trick that I'm using with this is I'm fishing this on a fluorocarbon line, or a braid to fluoro leader with this jig, because I'm just slowly working it. I'm just slowly dragging that as well. Just a different profile than that Ned. And I'm taking a pocket craw and putting it on the back. And I'll show you what I'm doing is I'm manipulating this pocket craw just a hair. I'm not fishing it like it is out of the package. It's a decent sized craw, probably typical with most, right? Take those apart, and I'm actually taking about 3/4 of an inch off of this craw before I put it on that Rattling AT jig. So I'm taking just 3/4 of an inch off that thing, right past where that second little nub is. Discard that. Now I have a smaller version, right, of a pocket craw. And you can clean that up, you can cut it however you want, and now I'm threading that on there just to condense. You can go to the All Terrain finesse jig, but I like the added weight and profile of this and that hook when I'm trying to get some of these fish to go. And now all I'm doing is taking that pocket craw, shorter version. Call this a finesse AT jig versus going right to the finesse jig. And there we go. So then I take that trailer lock, proprietary to All Terrain, hold that plastic on. Now that thing's ready to rock. It's a thing of beauty. Look at that, just a small little compact 3/8 ounce AT jig. And that's what I've been kind of pitching it out there, maybe feeding some line, hit the bottom, and just slowly dragging that back. We considered some Carolina rigs. I imagine that would work too. I did not fish a Carolina rig. Sounds like they did in Oahe, and it did well. It got more attention in the last week than it has in the last 5 years. I wasn't fishing it. I stuck with this 1-2 punch. As we talked, Ned, 3/8 ounce condensed version crawtail jig. Those are my 1-2 punch on how to get these fish to bite this last week. Now this, I anticipate, we did get some fish to go in the last couple days on moving baits again, whether it was a chatterbait, whether it was a swim bait, whether it was a swim jig. And I anticipate with this wind, we're gonna see wind up to 25-30 miles an hour the next few days. Complete 180 from this past week. I anticipate I'm gonna be moving a little quicker, maybe moving some reaction baits. Things are going to get stirred up a little bit. I may not be able to be as effective with that slow moving Ned, right? And we'll see how things go and how these fish set up. But that's been kind of the way we've caught our fish this week. It's painful. It is just a slow, have somebody in the boat you like to talk to, because you're going to have a lot of conversation as you just literally drag that bait. And that's what got us bit all week long, with these high suns, stagnant conditions, no wind, sweating hot type situations. Lived in my Blackfish UPF, drank a lot of water. Always had a Blackfish shirt on this week that had a hood, and I'm always doing this, keeping the sun and keeping the elements off, keeping my body temperature regulated, and then chugging lots of water, Gatorade, whatever it might be that you have on the boat, keeping yourself cool. Even jumped in the water. So there's an option too. The water temps are still in the 70s. It's still summer, so it's not like all hope is lost and it's fall, right? You can still do some of the water sports. Lots of people out there skiing, jet skiing, all that kinds of stuff, and that's the way we have it. So haven't targeted anything else. Haven't done the pike or the walleyes or the muskies or even the panfish thing. It's been strictly bass, and it's going to be probably strictly bass this week again. And I'll come back at you with another report next week on what we found here in this, what I consider 180 phase of weather and conditions. We're going to see everything here between last week and the end of this next week thrown at us here as we wind down August. And we'll see what changes. We'll see what happens, and we'll see what we got to do to make it happen. I anticipate I'll be doing some drop shotting this week, probably with a little heavier weight, playing with some of that. I anticipate I'll be throwing a little bit of a swim bait action. I'll continue to use some of the presentations we just discussed here. I'm thinking about maybe beating up some docks, depending on how windy it really gets, getting off on the side of the lake where the wind's not being as evasive in your face. See what happens there. And who knows, we're just going to go out there and go do some fishing and see what happens. So excited. We'll report back in a week. Congratulations to everybody in the last couple of weeks doing well fishing. Again, Austin Felix won that Blackfish, the Bassmaster event in Oahe. Good job representing Blackfish gear. And then Noah Schultz came right behind him this week, winning the Champions Tour event up on Gull. Noah's on a hammer. He is crushing it. And as we move into this coming week, we have a bunch more stuff happening. So good luck to everybody on the water. Be safe, have fun. And when I hit you up next week, it's going to be Labor Day weekend. It's going to be September, and we're going to start thinking late summer, early fall. Good luck.